Good day, everyone. Welcome to Blacklogic. Now, Donald Trump's executive order restores GI Bill benefits for veterans dismissed after refusing the COVID-19 vaccine. We're going to cover that. Sheila Trefulis McCormick, a Democratic congresswoman, is indicted for allegedly stealing $5 million in Federal Emergency Management Agency funds and funneling them into her campaign. We're going to see what that's all about as well. A leaked 28-point U.S.-Russian peace proposal for Ukraine and Russia war is surfacing. Substantial territory concessions, military reductions, and major shifts in European security architecture. Let's see if they can get this deal done. Candace Owens drops explosive claims with her interview with Myron Gaines about Charlie Kirk's assassinations, raising questions about the story of Tyler Robinson's involvement. His fingerprints were on the gun, but there was also other fingerprints. And we're going to cover two other major stories we'll dive into, plus what the data really says about food stamp usage in the United States of America and more. So we're going to jump right into all of that. Now, finally, some good news. Trump signs executive order reinstating GI Bill benefits to veterans who were discharged for refusing the COVID-19 vaccine. Now, for many veterans, their benefits were stripped away over a decision about body autonomy. And this EO is a symbolic and very practical reversal and a political nod to the vaccine mandate debates that still divide the nation. Now, I don't know if you guys are familiar with this particular story, but they was having veterans to be discharged with less than honorable, accolades when it comes to their service. It says here that in January, President Trump issued Executive Order 14184, reinstating service members discharged under the military's COVID-19 vaccine mandate. It stated that the Biden administration separated more than 8,000 service members from their military service because they had refused to comply with the Department of Defense, now Department of War, COVID vaccine mandate. More than half of these warriors received a discharge that was characterized as less than fully honorable. Okay. Now, in some regards, when you go out and look for other work and other careers, if you have military service, okay, you have to divulge that information. Were you a service member? Are you a veteran, etc.? And what was your discharge? Was it a bad conduct discharge? Was it, less than honorable discharge? Was it they have all these terminology, and that's almost as if this particular one, in my opinion, whether it be a bad conduct discharge or less than fully honorable discharge or a dishonorable discharge. In my opinion, they all are in the same category when jobs are looking at, what you mean less than honorable? Is that like bad? Because that's the way it's looked at. If it's not honorable, then all these others, in my opinion, are looked upon as not good, in some regards, really, really bad. It goes on to state that which many have made them ineligible for GI Bill education benefits. Following the Department of War reviews, roughly 900 of these veterans are now eligible for GI Bill education benefits, and 1,000 more could also regain GI Bill eligibility thanks to this executive order. So they still have 7,100 soldiers to reinstate their GI Bill benefits and some of their, and they should have been, in my opinion, I know I'm very opinionated this morning. I'm usually not just giving you the facts, but in my opinion, these soldiers, these warriors, no matter what service they were a part of, they should have received honorable discharges. Now, in the military, we call it, I know when I was in the Marine Corps, we call it the shot gauntlet. As you're being processed, you're walking through this line and have these little tall machines with these shots. And for the most part, we don't know what we're getting shotting up with. They're like, oh, it's just, procedure shots. You're getting your flu shot. You're getting, your tetanus shot. You're getting all these different shots. We're like, okay. And we're just basically standing in line with our shirts off, walking down a gauntlet on each side, and they just sticking us as we're walking through this line. That was in the Marine Corps. The same thing when I was in the Army, that didn't occur because probably looked at my shot record like, nope, he's been shot up pretty much enough. And don't forget, military members, whether it be, soldiers, sailors, airmen, naval men and women, we don't really have a say-so. We have a mandate. We're following orders when we're getting these shots that we necessarily don't agree with. Now, myself, I don't take the flu shot anymore. I had to take it when I was in, the Marine Corps and the Army. So I think that a lot of these soldiers, just given the lack of information around COVID-19, this is one of the reasons why they didn't take this vaccine. Now, because this was unprecedented, I think that, not just, Veterans Association or Veteran Affairs or the Department of Defense, they should have just say, okay, you know what, you're not going to take it. We're just going to discharge you guys, honorable discharge. Thank you for serving your country, but we can't have you guys. That's the least they could have done. But what they did is say, no, you're not following orders. You're not taking a shot, even though we don't have 5 to 7 years of information regarding the effects of the COVID-19 shot, how this may metamorphosize and change your DNA, RNA structure. I'm just saying, I'm not saying that's true or not, but we didn't have enough information. It was a case of emergency, or they could have quarantined these 8,000, military members. They could have quarantined them, say, hey, when you report to this building and this building only. These are for the people who are refusing to take the COVID-19 shot. There's many things they could have done, but give them less than honorable discharge. That's despicable, in my opinion, what the Biden administration has done. And the Secretary of the VA, Doug Collins, came out and basically let everyone know. He says, veterans discharged for refusing the COVID vaccine, you may qualify to have your GI Bill benefits restored. Learn how to request a review and apply for VA education benefits here. Now, if you guys are veterans watching this, I'm going to put a link down below where you guys can click once this video has posted, once we come off live. I'm going to put it down in the description of this video. And so you guys can go and get your GI benefits if they were stripped away from you. And I will petition, to change that less than honorable discharge to a honorable discharge as well. Okay. Don't let them get away with that as well. Okay. Because President Trump is in office. Supposedly he's all for the military. So that's a good thing for us. And so you should definitely try to change your status when it comes to less than honorable to honorable. And just a quick note, if you were discharged with less than honorable or bad conduct discharge, I would just petition, I would try to file paperwork to have it overturned to an honorable discharge. This is probably the administration for you to do it. This wasn't going to happen under a Biden administration, okay? But this is possible that it can happen under a Trump administration, okay? Even if you did something that wasn't honorable, I'm just saying, given the take of this administration, I'm just kind of giving you guys a cheat code when it comes to that, okay? Now, I don't know if you guys are familiar with this particular story, but Democratic Congresswoman Sheila McCormick has been indicted for allegedly stealing $5 million in FEMA funds and using it to bankroll illegal campaign contributions. And this matters because if this is proven true, it's a devastating betrayal using disaster relief money meant for the public to fund a political career. And corruption like this damages trust in government, especially during emergencies. And this could be a potential starting of a conspiracy of going after Democratic congresspersons. I want to point that out because would it be the alleged fraudulent and, deflecting funds in slush accounts or in campaign contribution funds, $5 million, and now this comes about? How do you misplace $5 million? Now, I'm not stating that she's not guilty. I'm not stating that she is innocent. I don't know. I think in America, we have so much money that is debt that these politicians, and I'm just going to keep it real with you guys, Democrats, Republicans, Independents, if there are politicians, I believe they're corrupt in some form of way. Either they are in direct corruptions or indirect corruption. What I mean, they are aware or familiar or they heard something dealing with corruption and they didn't report it. And this is on both sides. So that's why I say don't trust none of these politicians. I don't care if they're black, white, Asian, Hispanic, your brother, your cousin, your sister, your brother. I don't care. When they get into that realm of politics, a lot of people who had good morals and ethics, and some people say, well, they had good moral and ethics, they wouldn't change. Yes, they will. Either good pressure or bad pressure. Nonetheless, I just don't trust a lot of these politicians. Now, not stating, again, that she's guilty or not, but $5 million in FEMA funds, Federal Emergency Management Agency funds, that is sent for, national disasters, people in need, etc. This is big, ladies and gentlemen. This is big, in my opinion. So hopefully that's not given the case that she's guilty of funneling $5 million into her campaign funds, but who's the wiser? Now, Trump signed into law the bill forcing the public release of Jeffrey Epstein seal files. As I told you guys just yesterday, I'm not surprised that he signed it. And I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't sign it, because all of a sudden he's turned over a new leaf. They said, Mr. President, we have redacted and erased your name from the files. Okay, I'll release it. I'll sign the bill to release it now. Given enough time. That's just my conjecture. Don't take it as word of mouth. But anyway, focus now turns on when the files will be released. The Epstein network has haunted American politics for years, with Trump greenlighting transparency. Many wonder who will basically be implicated and whether justice will finally come for the victims. And so that's what a lot of people have been standing on, with justice coming to the victims. The bill sets the Department of Justice a 30-day timeline to release the files. Now, I'm not privy on all the red tape and bureaucracy behind this, but I think the American people, you and I, once the president has signed for the files to be released, what else is there to do? Further redactions, further alterations of names, dates, places, information within the files? Just release the files. I mean, put it on TikTok, put it on YouTube, put it on X, put it on Truth Social. Just throw it out there, in my opinion. Oh, well, we got to make sure there's no national security threats and anybody's family. This is the largest cover up in American history within our generation. Okay. Now, also, it states here, President Trump said in a social media post on Wednesday night that he signed the Jeffrey Epstein files bill, again accusing Democrats of associating with the disgraced financier and saying alleged links between party members and will soon be revealed. What is he talking about? Again, accusing Democrats of associating with the disgraced financier. President Trump, you was associated with him too. What are you talking about? Now, don't forget, initially, President Trump was running on a Democratic ticket. You guys remember that? On his first term initially, and then he wasn't getting a lot of Democrat support and help, and then he just flipped into Republicans. That's like, yeah, okay, I'm a Republican now. His pathway to becoming the 45th and 47th president, it should be a documentary. It should be a motion picture. Forget a documentary. I think a motion picture would be more entertaining, because it's just a lot of thrills when it comes to President Trump. He's like, I'm running on a Democratic ticket because whatever. And then, Democrats won't support President Trump. Okay, well, I'm running on a Republican ticket. I think at one point in time, he was an independent. I don't know. Anything to get to power. Anything to get to power, in my opinion. And I think surrounding, Jeffrey Epstein and, the files all together, when we look at President Trump signing this act, first, there's a reality check. There's no official client list that people are saying. There's no official client list. That's the information, because the U.S. Justice Department and FBI have explicitly said that they did not find a hidden client list in the Epstein materials, and that there is no evidence of a blackmail list of powerful people. They have court records from his criminal cases, civil suits like Virginia Guthrie versus Ghislaine Maxwell. They have flight logs. They have contact books like A Little Black Book and other directories. They have financial suspicions activity reports. But the secret client list floating around social media is mostly conspiracy branding and not a release single or official document. That's what it reports from the DOJ, the FBI, and all these, justice departments, so to speak. So in some regards, people cannot invent or aggregate a suspected list from rumors, Telegram feeds or X posts. But what I believe I can tell you who mainstream outlets say have been named in unsealed documents or contact lists, and be very clear that being named doesn't necessarily equal you being guilty of a crime, okay? Because what's actually in the unsealed court documents that was kind of released between 23 and 24. Now, in early 24, a batch of names was unsealed from the Guthrie Maxwell civil case after a judge ordered numerous documents released. These include a mix of people accused of wrongdoings, people mentioned at associates, guests, or contacts, people whose name just appeared in contact, often with no allegations attached to it. Now, major outlets like the BBC, Al Jazeera, The Guardian reported that high-profile names mentioned in these unsealed documents include Prince Andrew. Prince Andrew no longer have royalties in the backing of the British Crown. Don't forget that. Prince Andrew, central to allegations by Virginia Guthrie, he has settled a civil case while denying wrongdoing, but he settled a civil case. Bill Clinton was mentioned in logs, documented as having flown on Epstein's plane and being in his orbit. He denies any involvement in the crimes. Donald Trump, mentioned as having associated with Epstein and appears in some records, he also denies any wrongdoing. Like, who's going to admit any wrongdoing? Now, I may butcher this name, but Alan Dershowitz. I always mess that one up. Don't beat me up about it, family. Directly accused by Guthrie, no less, he vehemently denies it and has countersued in the past. Bill Richardson, former New Mexico governor, named in the documents, he denies any wrongdoing. Also, Jane Brunel, model, scout, and Epstein associate, accused by multiple women. He died in prison in France while under investigation. I want to know what was the cause of his death, like Jeffrey Epstein. I don't know. Other celebrity names like Michael Jackson, not the Jackson we know, Stephen Hawking, David Copperfield, he probably vanished. He's a magician. Appear in documents or contact material, but are not necessarily accused of crimes in those filings. Often they mention as social or professional contacts. And in some regards, these people were brought to Epstein or his island for entertainment. So they necessarily not may be involved in a lot of these alleged sexual trafficking acts, okay? So the media reports these names as named in the documents, not as a verdict that they were co-conspirators. Now, flight logs and contact lists, the little black book, so to speak, they have separate from court filings, because you've got flight logs, who flew on planes tied to Epstein. You have contact lists and infamous little black books and other directories. Now, when the DOJ released partial logs and a redacted contact book earlier this year, I know you guys remember that, like nothing essentially could be read. They mostly confirmed what investigative outlet have been reporting since 2019 to 2021. A lot of famous names, socialites, business people, politicians, entertainers, some close to Epstein, some barely connected to Epstein. So the DOJ and FBI said this was fundamentally a contact directory, not a client roster for them having some sort of sexual relationship with young women who are underage. Now, many names appear only as a phone number, an address, or a single flight, not as accused abusers, okay? So Trump's name, for example, appears multiple times in flight logs that Bondi's DOJ released, including flights with his then wife and child, but that alone doesn't prove criminal activity. It just really doesn't. So yes, there are a lot of high-profile people in the orbit of Jeffrey Epstein, but being in the book or on a flight is not the same as in the files as a trafficker. So again, we're going to have a lot of well-known or upcoming lawyers that's going to get involved in this, and they're going to make links and connections, and they're going to have to provide a bit of proof to take down any high-profile figure that they deem is guilty of alleged crime. So that's going to be, it's going to be some interesting news coming in the next couple of months or so regarding this, because I'm just interested to see what evidence they have, who's linked, or is this a big nothing burger, which At the end of the day, I don't think nothing's going to come out of this. I think whatever was in these initial files that they never fully released without being redacted, I think they have been altered. They have been dimmed down, so to speak, and that certain powerful names are not going to be in the files that are going to be released to the public. That's just my kind of take on it, because corruption in the American government is probably bigger than any other country, right? We're kind of the moral ground of trying to stop wars and conflicts around the world. But ladies and gentlemen, when people tell me, when I go to these other countries, how corrupt their government is, I tell them point blank and simple, the American government is probably the most corrupt government in the world. Okay, that's just my take on it. I love this country, but let's just be real. There's a lot of corruption, a lot of so-called conspiracy theories, and then come to find out a lot of these so-called conspiracy theories come to be true. You guys need to read a book called, I forgot the actual name, something about a pale horse. I forgot the name of the book, but it was a really good book. It's a deep read, no less. It's a very deep read, but I believe it will really let you know a lot of conspiracies that turned out to be true. Another book that I've read is, don't quote me on this because I kind of get the names. I've read quite a few books, but George Orwell 1984 book. That really, I read that in my teens in high school or when in my freshman year of college. But George Orwell book 1984 really tells you about how the government manipulates and push propaganda on people, either through media, TV, movies, etc. That's why a lot of times, you know, I can watch certain films. My wife's like, how can you watch that? I'm like, babe, this is all fake. Okay. And then in some regards, like, well, okay, what do you think about that? Well, that's real. Now, anyway, I just want to kind of give you guys a couple of books, how I come to some of my conclusions, no less. But again, I digress. A reported U.S.-Russian peace deal draft outlines terms to end the war in Ukraine, including territory swaps and NATO pullbacks, because if confirmed, this will mark a massive shift in global power dynamics, possibly freezing a conflict at the cost of Ukraine's sovereignty. Are peace and justice mutually exclusive here in how the European nations are going to get involved? Because America, again, is at the forefront of ending this so-called war between Ukraine and Russia. Now, both of these people are derivatives or derived from the Slavic people, no less. So I'm pretty sure that you guys are familiar with that. Now, again, U.S. and Russia officially have reportedly drafted a plan to end the war in Ukraine, and Vladimir Zelensky will meet Pentagon officials in Kiev on Thursday for discussion. So hopefully we can stop forking over billions of dollars to Ukraine. So hopefully they can get this deal in the works and really stop this war between these two countries. So again, that's going to lighten the pockets of America, no less. Now, I know you guys are familiar with Zoran Madawi, and President Trump has conceded. I mean, he has admitted to meeting him. He's going to meet him this Friday, so tomorrow. And I'm really don't have nothing to report on this. I really just want to see what President Trump and Zoran Madawi really going to talk about. What are they going to discuss? Because do not forget, President Trump called Zoran a dictator. He didn't call him a democratic socialist. He called him a dictator. Now, I wonder if he's going to be as gaslighting and projection when he meet this man face to face. Again, these two people are totally different. I mean, not just because one is Muslim and one is Christian, or so-called Christian in some regards. One is a Democrat, one is a Republican, one is a socialist, the other one is a conservative when it suits him. But again, I'm just curious what this conversation is going to revolve around. The president with a New York City mayor. I want you guys to really think about that. Not the governor of New York, but a mayor of New York. That's like, I want you guys to think about the mayor of Wisconsin, the mayor of Green Bay, the mayor of Boston, the mayor of LA, the mayor of San Francisco. Like, there's so many that we have thousands of mayors. Okay. We have mayors in small towns. We have mayors of big towns. I'm just curious, guys. I'm just curious. I just popped that up because I'm really, really curious about what they're going to talk about, what they're going to cover, what's going to be the outcome, what are going to be the results of this. Now, I'm pretty sure that you guys have been following the #1 podcaster over Joe Rogan, stemming from her, claims and reports and her broadcast revolving around Charlie Kirk, because Candace Owens dropped shocking claims about Charlie Kirk assassination. She's been doing this for the past month, ever since he been killed. But she's including new forensic details tied to suspect Tyler Robinson. In the age of disinformation, it's hard to tell the truth from fiction. So I get the take that she's taking, but Owens' reach is very, very massive. She's having everyone to come out the woodwork to defend themselves, and her claim add fire to a politically charged tragedy. The public deserves facts, not spin. Now, some of you are very, very interesting. Some of you probably wasn't even familiar with Charlie Kirk until he was assassinated. Some of you probably seen clips of him online prior to his assassination. But ladies and gentlemen, this is the same woman who denigrated the death of George Floyd, amongst all other things within the Black collective that has been happening to our people. And so when I did when I released my bid winch video last night, and I said, like a Candace Owens, I'm only using her for example because she is a representative. She's a sample of so many other, Black women, whether they be foundational Black Americans, whether they be immigrants from the Caribbean or African, whether it be Black Brits that are over here. And I also included that some males can be bed winches as well. Now, I know that we usually call males bed bucks. I'm going to release a video on that as well. But I like to call some men bed winches as well. And you guys know exactly what I'm referring to. And the reason why I'm stating this is because she was stating, even though that the coroner's report and the doctor's report said that he died from asphyxiation, meaning that he was basically choked to death, that he died from fentanyl. Not stating that what George Floyd was going through was unlawful. Okay, of them literally 4 police officers, planting themselves on his body, an alleged $20 bill. And this, unfortunately, this is the usual case surrounding Black America. But you had her to defend these police officers, Derek Chauvin and all these other people, defend him. But instead of doing a series of videos to really unveil evidence backed by forensic evidence and the coroner's report, doctor's reports, to state that George Floyd indeed died and was killed by asphyxiation, that he could not breathe. Now, how can you state that a man died from fentanyl as he's stating that I cannot breathe, and then he dies from not breathing, and then you have the doctor reports to back that up as well? So people can miss me with all of this. Candace Owens doing a great job diving into why Charlie Kirk's assassination. There's been so many Black people who have been unalive. And granted, I know you're going to say, well, Charlie Kirk was her friend. Some people argue that Charlie Kirk was her puppet master. But she had literally used this case as a claim to fame. Because don't forget all the organizations that used Candace Owens and kicked her out. Your PragerU, your Heritage Foundation, your Turning Point USA, they all kicked her out. Now she's throwing up more numbers than Joe Rogan because there's so many people who are interesting. Because again, America, we love a good conspiracy. And I'm not saying any of her claims are false or not intriguing or interesting. They are. I've watched some of the videos and some of the things she's questioned and released. They're astounding. She really has a really good point. But again, my question is this, and I'm not trying to make this a black or white issue. I know some of you may think I am, but she's never, ever done any of this for all the Black people that have been killed, that have been unalived, who were unarmed. I want you guys to really think about that. She's never done this. Well, Charlie Kirk was her friend. Well, she never did a whole series on Kanye West. As far as I know, her and Kanye West has a good relationship. She's never went on a tear to defend Kanye West and see why they're attacking Kanye West and why Kanye West has lost billions of dollars from Adidas and other contracts he has had to defend him, and he's still alive. Well, sure, Kanye West can do that for himself. I'm taking up for Charlie Kirk. Whatever. Okay. I just had to get that off my chest. I just had to get that off my chest. I'm so tired of it. Now, new federal analysis shows major shifts in SNAP benefit usage with enrollment. It's really rising sharply in states with weakened labor protection. And food aid isn't just a policy stat. It's a survival lifeline for millions of Americans. Changes in SNAP reflect deep economic fragility in all neighborhoods, especially in white, Black, and Hispanic neighborhoods, as well as rural communities hit hardest by inflation and wage suppression. Because they will love this to make, Black Americans, the reason why I say all neighborhoods, they would love to make Black Americans the welfare group of America. And that's simply not true. And people say, well, white people have a largest population than Black people. Yeah, but this is dealing with percentages and per capita. So as we look at that, now I'm only going to read into a little bit of this. Food stamp use jumped during COVID-19 pandemic, has remained high. And they were basically stating how the program known as SNAP began in 1964, okay? And it has doubled during COVID-19. I want to show you guys something really quickly here. Here we go. Characteristics of SNAP benefits. Can you guys see that? Characteristics of SNAP benefits. Now, as you see here, percentage of food stamp recipients as it pertains and the respects of their own populations in America. Not simple numbers with a lot of people like, well, there's more white people, thus more white people are going to be on welfare than Black people. No, these are percentages, okay? Okay. So we got the ages and then we have race. White people who are on SNAP benefits, 61%. White, not Hispanic, another 37.4%. Blacks, 28.7%. Asians, okay, 3.5%. All of the races, 6.7%. And then Hispanic of any race, 30%. So again, as we are trying to paint a picture that Black people are the most racial group on welfare, we see whites that are not Hispanic, I don't know where they separate, and then Hispanics of any race, then Black people, then Asians. Okay. And then we go down here, U.S. born, 86, roughly 87%, foreign born, 13.4%. Okay. We're kind of looking at this all assessed, and it says shares may not sum to 100% due to rounding. Survey asks for recipients' age, living arrangement at December 23rd. And this is coming from no other than the U.S. Census Bureau 2024 survey of income and program participation. So the whole narrative that majority of Black Americans on welfare is a lie, is a farce, is propaganda, and it's just not true. Okay? So thank you guys for joining me here this morning. I see some comments over here. Good morning, Volvo. MD Williams. 1984 is a must read. Indeed it is. He states, I'm still tripping about the fake Apollo mission. Hey, supposedly we landed on the moon, but there's no wind on the moon, but the flag was flying on the moon. I like Neil deGrasse take on if the moon landing was staged. I believe he has a good take. Now, I could go on a list. Since I'm live here, I don't go live as much as I used to. But I think I want to show you guys my books. I showed my books before. I think I'm going to show my books, a lot of books that I've read. I'm going to go in my library really quickly here. See, The Alchemist was a good book, 48 Laws of Power. I'm just naming some books. I'm trying to see where I had all of my books at. Give me 1 second here. Okay, I'm going to show you. Now, if you guys see any books that you like, just kind of leave a message down below with your email, and I will send those books, the digital version, if I can, to you. So if you see any books that you like, okay, if you see any books that you like, and see, here's another Franz Fanon book. I've been reading a lot of his works lately. Alienation and Freedom, pretty powerful brother there. So I've been quoting a lot of his books lately in a lot of my broadcasts. And I know there's a lot of books here, ladies and gentlemen. So again, just take a mental note, rewind the tape, so to speak. And again, I can send you this digital copy that I have. Okay. I had someone, all these books I have, I was moving and I was like, I can't move all these books. So I had them to scan the books for me. Okay. This company that I pay, pretty penny for, but nonetheless, I believe they did a good job. Okay. So hood feminism, we see that, how capitalism undeveloped Black America in the search of power, Black American era of decolonization, 1956 to 1974. That was a good one right here that I'm referencing. James Baldwin, The Cross of Redemption, Uncollected Writings. Of course, Malcolm X, Life of Reinvention. Iceberg Slim, Mama Black Widow. Again, a lot of really intriguing books. This is how I have really disassociated myself from any political party, just giving so much knowledge and wisdom from these people who have been through so much that we really shouldn't trust either side of the political spectrum, right? Cornel West book, Race Matters. Now, I know everyone's not on board with our good brother Cornel West, okay? But he does have some very powerful things to state, some really intriguing things to state. I know you guys are familiar with this Kwame Nkrumah, Revolutionary Path. That was a really good book, really good read, okay? So again, if you see anything you like now, there's other books that I've read. I'm trying to remember some powerful books. The Four Agreements. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Four Agreements book. That was a really good book. The Power of Now, The Art of Negotiation. I've read a lot of financial books. When this channel was doing financial information, I read a lot of books in those regards. So again, if you see anything, let me know. If you have any requests, if I have it, I'll send it out to you. Free of charge, by the way. Free of charge. Free of charge. But nonetheless, you guys have a good one. And I'll see you guys on the next one.